They say the road has a way of talking to you if you stay on it long enough, but it doesn't use words. It uses the hum of the tires, the flickering of a dying high beam, and that cold, creeping sensation in the small of your back that tells you, not just suggests, but screams that you are being watched. I've spent 12 years hauling freight across the lower 48. I've seen the sunrise over the painted desert and the fog swallow the Appalachians whole. I thought I knew every rest stop, every grease-trap diner, and every no-tell motel from Maine to Mexico. But I didn't know about the Hollow. It was October 14th, 2024. The rain wasn't just falling, it was punishing the earth. My GPS had given up the ghost 20 miles back, and my fuel light was a mocking amber eye on my dashboard. I was running on fumes, caffeine, and a bad feeling that was quickly turning into a full-blown panic. Then, out of the blackness, I saw it. A neon sign, flickering like a dying heart. Big Al's Stop, open for you. I should have kept driving. I should have coasted on empty until the engine seized, because what I found at Big Al's wasn't just a gas station. It was a hunting ground, and tonight, I was the only thing on the menu. Welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we're looking at a case that the local authorities tried to bury, deeper than the bodies they eventually found. This is the story of the truck stop that was still open just for me. Let's set the scene. I'm driving a 2022 Peterbilt, hauling a load of dry goods toward Omaha. I'm tired. Not I need a coffee tired, but I'm seeing shadow people on the shoulder tired. When I pulled into Big Al's, the first thing I noticed was the silence. Have you ever been to a truck stop? They're never quiet. There's the drone of reefers, the hiss of air brakes, the distant shouting of a driver on a CB radio. But Big Al's, it was a tomb. There were 3 other rigs parked in the back lot. All of them were dark. No lights in the cabs, no engines idling, just 3 massive skeletons sitting in the rain. Now, normally, a quiet truck stop is a blessing. It means no one is going to park their shitty reefer right next to your sleeper and vibrate your brain out of your skull at 3 a.m. But this felt wrong. It felt like a movie set where the actors had all walked off 10 minutes before I arrived. I hopped out of the cab. The air smelled like ozone and something else, something metallic, like old pennies or, well, you know what else smells like iron. I walked toward the main building. The neon buzzed, dropping a sickly pink light onto the puddles. I pushed the door open and a little bell chimed. It was the loneliest sound I'd ever heard. Behind the counter sat a man who looked like he'd been carved out of a piece of driftwood. Leathery skin, eyes the color of a cloudy sky, and a smile that didn't quite reach his ears. He didn't look up when I walked in. He was sharpening a pocket knife on a whetstone. "Help you?" His voice sounded like gravel being turned in a cement mixer. "Need diesel, and maybe a coffee if the pot isn't from the Nixon administration." He looked up then. He didn't smile, but his eyes crinkled. "Pot's fresh. Diesel's on pump 4. You're the only one here, son. Take your time." I headed for the coffee carafes. As I poured a cup of the black sludge, I looked out the window toward the back lot. From this angle, I could see the back of one of the parked trucks. The trailer doors were slightly ajar. Now, listen, no trucker leaves their trailer doors open in a rainstorm, not unless they're unloading or unless they left in a hell of a hurry. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with my wet flannel shirt. I looked back at the clerk. He was still sharpening that knife. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "Those guys in the back, they been there long?" The sharpening stopped. The silence in the room became heavy, like a physical weight on my shoulders. "Long enough," he said. "They're just resting, like you're going to do." I paid for my fuel and coffee, my skin crawling the entire time. I walked back out to the pump. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the fog was rolling in, thick and white, swallowing the edges of the parking lot. I was standing there watching the numbers climb on the pump when I heard it. It came from the trailer of the truck closest to me, a heavy, rhythmic thudding, like someone was kicking the inside of the metal walls. At this point, my brain is doing that thing where it tries to be logical to keep me from pissing myself. Oh, it's just the wind, I told myself, or maybe a loose strap. Yeah, sure, because the wind frequently climbs inside locked trailers to practice its kickboxing routine. I should have gotten in my truck and bolted, but curiosity is a terminal illness in the true crime world, isn't it? I walked toward the other truck. My boots crunched on the gravel. The thudding stopped. I reached the back of the trailer. The doors were indeed unlatched. A heavy chain hung from the handle, swinging gently. I reached out a hand, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I pulled the door open, just a few inches. Then the smell hit me. It wasn't rot. It was bleach, overwhelming, stinging bleach. And then a hand reached out from the darkness of the trailer and grabbed the edge of the door. I screamed. I'm not proud of it. It wasn't a manly action hero grunt. It was a high-pitched, I'm about to meet my maker shriek. But the hand wasn't a monster's. It was trembling. A face appeared in the gap. A young woman, maybe 20 years old. Her hair was matted, her eyes wide with a terror so deep it looked like she'd seen the bottom of the ocean. "Please," she whispered, "don't let him see you talking to me." "Who?" I asked, my voice shaking. "The Weaver." Now, I've heard a lot of nicknames in this business. The Night Stalker, the BTK Killer, but The Weaver? That sounded like something out of a nightmare you can't wake up from. She told me her name was Sarah. She'd been missing for 3 weeks. She'd been taken from a rest stop 3 states away. She told me there were others, not in the trucks, but under them. "He uses the trucks to hide the holes," she sobbed. "He moves the rigs over the burial sites so the heat from the engines messes with the thermal imaging if the cops fly over. He's smart. He's so smart." I looked back toward the station. The clerk, the man with the knife, was standing in the doorway. He wasn't sharpening the knife anymore. He was holding a shotgun. "Run!" I yelled. I didn't have to tell her twice. Sarah tumbled out of the trailer and we bolted toward my Peterbilt. Behind us, I heard the boom of a 12-gauge. The glass in my side mirror shattered into 1,000 diamonds. I've never been a track star. In high school, I was the guy who got winded walking to the cafeteria. But in that moment, I was Usain Bolt with a caffeine addiction. We reached the cab. I threw her into the passenger seat and scrambled behind the wheel. My keys. Where were my damn keys? I fumbled in my pocket, my fingers feeling like sausages. Another shot hit the sleeper cab. I found the keys. I jammed them into the ignition. The engine groaned. "Come on, baby, not today. Don't do this to me today." The engine roared to life. I didn't wait for the air pressure to build. I didn't check my mirrors. I slammed it into gear and floored it. As I tore out of the lot, I looked in the rear view. The clerk wasn't chasing us. He was just standing there, illuminated by the pink neon sign. He was waving. Not a goodbye wave, a see you soon wave. But we weren't out of the woods yet, because as I hit the main road, I realized why he was waving. 2 sets of headlights appeared in the fog behind us, blacked-out SUVs, and they were gaining fast. We're going to pause the action for a second. I know, don't kill me in the comments, but to understand what happened next, you have to understand who the Weaver was. After Sarah and I made it to a police station in the next county, nearly totaling my rig in the process, the FBI got involved. They raided Big Al's stop 3 hours later. What they found wasn't just a gas station, it was a sophisticated human trafficking and trophy ring. The clerk, Albert Vane, wasn't the leader. He was the loom. His job was to catch the threads, the travelers, the runaways, the lonely truckers. The Weaver was someone much more prominent, someone who had the power to make police reports vanish and GPS signals drop out. The Weaver was the local county sheriff, Elias Thorne. For 10 years, Thorne and Vane had operated Big Al's stop. They'd targeted people who wouldn't be missed. And Sarah, she was supposed to be the latest thread. When investigators moved those 3 skeleton trucks in the back lot, they found a series of reinforced concrete bunkers underneath the asphalt. They found cells. They found trophies, driver's licenses, wedding rings, a child's teddy bear. And they found the 14 bodies that hadn't been moved yet. Here's where the story gets truly weird. And this is the part that keeps me up at night, staring at the ceiling of my cab. 2 weeks after the raid, I drove back toward that stretch of highway. I had a detective with me. I wanted to see it in the daylight. I wanted to face the place that almost took my life. We drove the exact mileage. We followed the landmarks, the old oak tree split by lightning, the rusted-out bridge. But when we got to the coordinates, there was nothing. There was no gravel lot, no pink neon sign, no concrete bunkers. There was just an overgrown field of weeds and a sign that said, "Property of State Highway Dept, closed since 1998. Now, I know what you're thinking. OP, you're losing your mind. You were tired. You hallucinated the whole thing. And I'd believe you. I really would. I'd check myself into the nearest psych ward and hand over my CDL. Except for one thing. I still have the coffee cup. It's sitting on my desk right now, a cheap white styrofoam cup with a logo printed on it in fading pink ink. Big Al's, open for you. And Sarah, she's real. She's in a witness protection program. She remembers the bleach. She remembers the thudding. She remembers the sheriff's face. So how do you explain a crime scene that vanishes into thin air? How do you explain a physical location that exists only when it needs to find a victim? The case against Sheriff Thorne fell apart. Without a physical crime scene, without the bunkers, the bodies, or the trucks, the prosecution had nothing but the testimony of a traumatized girl and a sleep-deprived truck driver. Vane, the clerk, disappeared the night of the raid. Some say he's still out there, scouting for the next location, setting up the loom in another forgotten corner of the interstate. I don't drive at night anymore. I pull over as soon as the sun starts to dip below the horizon. I don't care if I'm behind schedule. I don't care if the broker yells at me. Because every now and then, when I'm driving down a long, dark stretch of I-80, my GPS will glitch. The screen will turn pink and a voice, not the Google Maps lady, but a voice like gravel will whisper, "Recalculating. Your stop is coming up on the right." There are thousands of miles of asphalt in this country. Most of it is just road, but some of it is a web. And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself pulling into a place that was opened just for you. This story doesn't have a happy ending. There was no justice for the 14 souls found and then lost at Big Al's. There's only the warning. To all my brothers and sisters out there on the road, watch your gauges, keep your doors locked, and if you see a neon sign flickering in a place where no sign should be, don't stop. Don't look back, just keep driving until you hit the light. Tonight's story is a reminder that the world is a lot bigger and a lot darker than we like to admit. Sometimes the monsters aren't hiding under your bed. They're standing behind a gas station counter, waiting for you to get thirsty. I want to dedicate this video to the threads that never made it out of the web. We remember you. If you've ever had a strange encounter at a rest stop or a truck stop you can't explain, leave a comment below. I read every single one of them, usually while I'm parked in a very well-lit, very crowded Pilot Travel Center. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you want to hear more stories from the dark side of the road. It really helps the channel grow and lets me keep telling these stories. Stay safe out there, watch the shadows, and for heaven's sake, check your fuel levels before the sun goes down. Good night, everyone.